Good morning, or whatever time of day it happens to be with you when you're watching this. As you'll be able to see immediately, this is not being filmed in my study in Balliol. Instead, it's taking place in St. Cross Church. This is a fantastic new project that has come to completion this year. The church is right next door to Holywell Manor, and it was in slow decline, and there was an opportunity for us to take out a long-term lease from the Church of England. Indeed, the lease was one that I thought was perfectly acceptable, even in terms of Balliol's longevity, because the period is 999 years. And over the last 2 years, this church has been churned into a special collection centre, housing some of the college's extremely rare archives and wonderful special manuscripts. I've been down a number of times while the works have been going on, and the ceiling, which is now spectacular and wonderful and coloured, was all dark and black before, and the whole building looks alight and fresh and welcoming. When I came down after the material had been moved in, Anna Sander, the archivist, opened up some of the rolling shelving. So I went in. My eyes ran along the boxes, and I saw the name Fulk. Now, I knew, perhaps you don't, that Fulk was known as Foxy Fulk, and he'd worked with canes. So I opened the box, conscious that probably not many people had ever before looked at these papers. And as I turned the fold of pages back and glanced down the first page that came to eye, I have to say the hairs on the back of my head almost stood on end. Because there, in the fourth paragraph, there was a piece that said, "At our meeting this afternoon, we nearly reached agreement on all the main currency and debt clauses for Austria, and I've sent the first draft to the printers. Dined with Robert Cecil, Brand and Keynes, and we met after dinner to discuss a new European credit scheme prepared by Keynes." And it then goes on to talk about the bondholders putting up a pathetic fight, but it's a hopeless case. And what's happening now? These same meetings are taking place in Berlin and Paris about what's happening to Greece. And what's the date of this piece of paper from which I've been reading? It's the 17th of May, 1919, in the Versailles negotiations. And so here in St. Cross Church are papers that are relevant today, and almost nobody has ever seen them. Fantastically exciting. Thinking back in a longer way over the 14 years for which I've been responsible for Balliol, obviously a huge number of things have taken place. But one that came to mind, and the reason it did was that it's the 10th anniversary this year, was the founding of the Oxford Internet Institute. This was a project entirely driven from within Balliol, and it established the first multidisciplinary institute in the world looking at the social effects of the internet. And I have to say, I take a certain pleasure in the fact that on the one hand, as I'm speaking here in St. Cross in a church that dates back to 1080, and I see around me all these wonderful manuscripts, there's this great sense of a connection with the past and the college's heritage. And on the other hand, there's the college's engagement with the internet, which is absolutely the world of the 21st century. So Balliol engaged both with ancient and with modern. As this is the last year of my mastership, and indeed we're doing this recording in my very final week, I've obviously been reflecting a little. This was especially so at a wonderful dinner the Fellows kindly gave for me and Peggotty at the end of last term. Recalling this, two thoughts in particular came to me. One was something which I've said many times to students at the point at which they're being admitted or just after we've admitted them. And I say that what Balliol looks for is not the person you are now, but the person you might become. And I feel very much that that's what happened to me when I was admitted to my fellowship. I had no idea then that I could make a success of being a tutorial fellow in economics. No idea at all that I could become master. And it's been an extraordinary opportunity and a very great privilege. The second thing is something which I said on Saturday to a group of old members who'd come back for their Geordie. They were at an age when they'd been away from Balliol for a good many years, and maybe life had a certain degree of tension about it, a little bit of anxiety. And what I said to them was, think how much lies ahead, and think not what you have done, but what there is still to do. And that's what I'm thinking about now as Peggotty and I move on from Balliol. But it's also what I think about Balliol. This is one college in the University of Oxford, in a small island off the coast of Europe. And yet somehow we have this extraordinary impact upon the world. I've sometimes said that being at Balliol is a little like having a stone in your shoe. It's very small relative to your body mass, but it alters the whole way you walk. I've been lucky to be here and to have had the way in which I've walked changed out of all recognition. It's been a great honour. I naturally hope I'll keep in touch with many of you over the years ahead. But in this, my last video as Master, thank you very much for the opportunity to have held this position. Goodbye.